Hey, it's Christopher, trying something a little bit different today. I'm going to let this run not the whole time I'm narrating this next Not About Lumberjacks story, but I wanted to give you guys kind of a peek behind the curtain. That was bad. This is the first time I'm trying sort of this little recording blanket booth thing. Still need to fix this because this isn't really that good. But anyway, that's all beside the point. Just to give you a little bit of a peek of how I do this, I'll go through like the intro stuff and the first scene of the story. And then because I turn the air conditioning off and it's like, been 104 in Texas every day. So the AC is off. It's only going to get hotter, and I'm going to be taking my shirt off pretty soon, and nobody needs to see that. So, okay. Let me get a sip of water, and we'll get going. Okay. And the headphones, of course, are just to sort of monitor myself. And if you see me peeking out here, I'm just actually kind of looking to make sure that my levels go. So because what happens is I tend to get really excited when I record. So like right now I'm talking a little louder and I would be reading, but once I start reading, I'll be like, I want to make one thing perfectly clear. This show is not about lumberjacks. And I always want to make sure that the gain is set. And I have a computer out here that you can't see, obviously, so. And I'm sort of stretching out so I don't get leg cramps. All right, so here we go. This is what it's like. I want to make one thing perfectly clear. This show is not about lumberjacks. My name is Christopher Grunland, and this is where I share my stories. Sometimes the stories contain truths, but most of the time they're made up. Sometimes the stories are funny, other times they're serious. But you have my word about one thing. I will never, ever share a story about lumberjacks. And I kind of went, so... But you have my word about one thing. I will never, ever share a story about lumberjacks. This time it's a mystery set in a bog in northern Illinois. Finally. But first, the usual content advisory. Godspeed Crazy Mike deals with murder, speculation of suicide, divorce, including a pretty bad custody battle, fraud, theft, alcohol and tobacco use, and Tourette syndrome. I only mention Tourette syndrome because if you're like me and actually have Tourette syndrome, one of the character's tics might set off some of your tics. In fact, as I was writing the intro and as I'm recording it right now, I'm having a hard time sitting still. So that's why I mentioned that. I mean, seriously, it's really hard right now. And there's so much out. Okay. Oh, and there is, of course, swearing, but really not that much this time. Oh, and there is, of course, swearing, but really not that much this time around. Two quick things before we get going. Thing one, I want to thank everybody who's supporting... I almost belched really loud, so... Thing one. I want to thank everyone who's supporting the show through Patreon. If you want a full access peek behind the scenes for as little as $1 a month, go to patreon.com/cgrunland. That's patreon.com/CGRONLUND. Thing 2. I want to mention a couple great artists you should check out. Julia Lundman is a snazzy person. And one of my favorite artists. She's been a visual development artist and an art director working in animation and video games, but has recently turned much of her artistic attention to personal illustration and painting. You can check out her art at julialundman.com and julialundmancommercial.com. James S. Baker is also very snazzy and a wonderful storyteller. He's worked in animation since 1982. In fact, he's likely done storyboards or been a story artist on some of your favorite Pixar features. If you go to james-baker.com and click the writing link, you'll be treated to some great stories and art. When I heard Julia and James were listening to Not About Lumberjacks stories while working together, I was floored. Having creative people I respect see something in the stories I tell. People who have helped bring some incredible stories to life themselves. Well, it was the little nudge I needed to see. If there was some more. It was the little nudge I needed to see if there's more potential in what I'm doing. So thank you, Julia and James. I'll be sure to link their websites in the show notes for anyone who wants to see what they're up to. All right, let's get to work. Still just checking all that stuff. And getting a sip of water. All right. Godspeed, Crazy Mike. Godspeed, Crazy Mike. Godspeed, nah, that's good. Godspeed, Crazy Mike. Crazy Mike was found dead behind the maintenance barn, covered in rose pegonia and grass pink blossoms. His pale body lay in stark contrast to the bright flowers and lush grass serving as his final resting place. Were two horseflies not crawling across his face, one might think Crazy Mike decided to relax where prairie gave way to tamarack trees. Yeah, tamarack. I was going to say tamarack. People from Northern Illinois, it's like we have this thing like caramel. We say caramel, and we just have it's a bad habit. Okay, anyway. One might think Crazy Mike. Okay, I'm going to start that whole sentence over. Were two horseflies not crawling across his face, one might think Crazy Mike decided to relax where prairie gave way to tamarack trees and buckbean, to leatherleaf, sphagnum moss, and cattails rocked by red-winged blackbirds and gentle summer breezes. And I'll do that one more time. To leatherleaf, sphagnum moss, and cattails rocked by red-winged blackbirds and gentle summer breezes. Mike's eyes were open, looking skyward with a seeming purpose when his body was discovered by Sawyer Boggs' other groundskeeper. I almost got through it. Mike's eyes Mike's eyes were open, looking skyward with a seeming Mike's eyes were open, looking skyward with a seeming purpose when his body was discovered by Sawyer Bog's other groundskeeper, Wesley Moore. I was starting to kind of lose a little bit of breath there, so I just paused, and you can see why it takes me forever to edit these things, because I'm always like having to cut and yeah, that. So anyway, all right. Ba 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 ba. Wesley turned and looked up, trying to spot what Mike's dead eyes were fixed upon. Wesley turned and looked up, trying to spot what Mike's dead eyes were fixed upon. But the only things above were thick, puffy clouds that could turn into a June thunderstorm by late afternoon, or just knock the humidity up enough to make the day miserable. Ah, geez, Mike. Ah, geez, Mike. Mike. Wesley reached into his pocket, grabbed his phone, and dialed 911. And then I'm going to stop here, but this is what the next line is. Detective Gary Van Diver was eating a bowl of Captain Crunch when his phone rang. So I am going to, as I said, kind of take my shirt off and all that stuff because it's getting really hot. I'll be like, probably lose a couple pounds of sweat at least. Have that going for it. But anyway, I just wanted to show everybody sort of what the process is like and just kind of say thanks again to everybody who's been supporting the Patreon. When I get a better setup, I would love to be able to actually one day have a camera on where, you know, like blooper reels, actually doing videos, things like that. But for now, hey, this is a good start. Thanks again. And I'm off to read, thousands upon thousands of words. So thanks. And also, just to kind of give you guys a little look of, so I have an iPad over here. And then you can kind of see the mic, the pop filter, all that. It's going to get bright, but I have a little light up there. Out here, you can kind of see, right here, this is an audio interface, even though you can barely see it because of that. And then you can kind of see the waveforms and all that good stuff. So that is it. And I'm going to actually, for real now, get recording.